conversations last time. Thanks. You wear your Houston hat tonight? You wear your Houston hat?
Not a Houston fan.
I ain't either.
It's on.
But I believe their defense is good enough to. Florida's going to be tough. But they got a good defense.
I would bet, and I bet on Florida.
Oh, if I was putting money on it, I'd put money on
Well,
Florida.
Duke sure threw it away.
But I think Houston's got a good chance with that defense.
Yeah, they.
Of course, I just said that about Duke the other night too.
I said that to the game.
That Florida Auburn game, that was a good game.
That's how it's going, man.
You know,
I've got to put that card away.
Oh, he was looking for her for what?
That's what he wants. I don't know that she can pull it up on the fly like that. Expenses for I. Johnson.
Oh, well, we don't need it tonight.
No,
Okay, yeah.
Kind of dig that up.
I don't know where
Well, I know
Scotland
what's
County's
behind
on.
that. I mean,
That's Chief Malloy. You talking about Adam
what's
McGee?
behind
Yeah. That's Chief Malloy's sister.
Is that who that is?
No,
He's worked at
Yeah,
social service
that
for
was
years.
no.
I first heard about that today.
Jury commission says no built the ark.
How
All right, forever.
Good. How about yourself?
Forever.
How old is she?
I'd have maybe,
No, thank you.
maybe close to 80, if not a little over
Oh,
80.
thank you.
Still getting around.
I wish I could say that sometimes. Thank you.
Adults, older adults, abused
That's-
adults for
yeah.
a while there too.
Nope.
Oh, I didn't know that.
No, thank you.
Just no thank you.
If you're not having COVID time,
Thanks,
we had
but no
our
thanks.
outdoors for
David's a fine
down, slow it down.
man.
But now,
Well, I'm proud tonight.
Oh, this,
Thank you. First time I wore it since last year.
It's kind of a springtime suit.
I'm gonna put a check over that, kind of push down over there, get that signature.
you know that I spent $11,000 getting them 2 trees cut out of the backyard, them big gigantic oak trees. What happens today the first time the wind blows? The one tree I left,
Blew over.
a huge limb falls out of it. Now I got to get out there and cut that stupid thing.
So you have a good man doing it.
Tarzan did it. What's his last name?
No idea.
Koch, I think, or something like that. His daddy's a preacher.
Okay.
He did good. He tore my yard up with that skid steer, but I mean, there wasn't much else he could do with them big pieces. I mean, he did try to level it out back, but he did a good job of cutting that tree. The
This
guy
one right
the guy
here?
that gets the credit's the guy that went up in that bad.
Bet he did.
So we can at least
Up
get
there at 8
started
o'clock,
working things
Not
into
come
the
back
budget.
down till 3:30.
well, since it was in here, I didn't know.
Yeah, and it's, I gave y'all,
Okay.
basically the same folder from the other day and updated a couple of things on it.
Well, that was kind of the two. Well, half of the one that he had to come cut
Do programs.
failed.
Yeah, this shows.
So I knew I was getting that cut, and while we were there looking at the other one, it was already leaning, and it was gigantic. I mean,
I think it
and
reads that. It should be.
you back here, you might as well cut that one down too. We cut both of them down, and that, of course that wall's back there, so you can't just haul them out. West Church Street.
Oh,
yeah,
that one,
Morgan House.
yeah.
So they can't just take it out. They got to take it over and put it over the wall. So it was a, but he did good. Other than tearing up the yard, but it wouldn't have mattered who did that. They would have tore the yard up. So, but all right. It is 6 o'clock. I'd like to welcome everyone to the April 7th, 2025 meeting of the Scotland County Board of Commissioners. And we will start tonight with an invocation of Commissioner Williams.
If you would bow your head, please. Oh, merciful and graceful Father, we give you all the thanks and the glory, Lord. We want to thank you for allowing each and every commissioner that's serving tonight, Lord. We don't just give you all the praise. Lord, we ask you that the decisions we make tonight are pleasing to you and the citizens of Scotland County. We ask you to continue to touch this troubled world, Lord. Lead those who are in a dark place today towards your light. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Next item will be approval of the agenda. Need a motion for that.
Make the motion.
We
I
have a
second it.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, our next item is the public forum. Do we have anyone signed up,
No, sir.
Dorothy? Is anyone here want to use the 3 minutes? Seeing nobody run to the mic, we'll move right on to the consent agenda. And take a motion for the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? While I'm on that topic, though, I think in there that audit thing needs everyone's signature on it.
Yep.
Or
So
do I have it or you have it?
we have it right here. So before you leave,
Before you
Commissioners, we
leave.
need your signature.
Yeah, before you leave, I need your signature. Except for Commissioner Shelley, who isn't here tonight, so you'll have to get him. I'm not sure when you gotta turn that in. All right, next item is a proclamation for Child Abuse Prevention Month, and that would be Miss Kim, are you doing?
Stephanie is gonna start with Child Abuse Prevention Month.
Okay. You're doing I got it backwards on here then, so, okay, all right, Miss Shannon Hammonds, right?
Stephanie Jacobs.
Stephanie. That's Miss Stephanie, not Miss Shannon.
I messed up something bad then, because she told me,
It's
she
okay.
told me and I wrote it down wrong, so anyway, I'm sorry.
It's fine. So, good evening. My name is Stephanie Jacobs, and I am a supervisor with the Child Protective Services Unit at DSS, better known as CPS. The main focus of CPS is keeping all children safe and keeping families whole. Child abuse and neglect occur more often than people realize. In 2024, Scotland County CPS received 359 reports of child abuse or neglect, with approximately 77 of those being found in need of services or substantiated. For our community, even one case is one too many. This is why education on child abuse prevention is key. Everyone has a role to play in preventing child abuse and neglect and helping all children reach their full potential. We call upon all citizens, community agencies, faith groups, medical facilities, elected leaders, and businesses to increase participation in our efforts to prevent child abuse and strengthen the communities in which we share and live. Therefore, we ask that you, the Scotland County Board of Commissioners, proclaim April as Child Abuse Awareness Month. I will now read the 2025 Child Abuse Prevention Proclamation. In recognition of April as Child Abuse Prevention Month, whereas children are our state's most vulnerable members, as well as our state's most valuable resources, helping to shape the future of North Carolina, and whereas positive childhood experiences like loving caregiver and safe, stable, and nurturing relationships can help mitigate trauma and the negative impact of adverse childhood experiences to promote the social, emotional, and developmental well-being of children, and whereas childhood trauma can have long-term psychological, emotional, and physical effects throughout an individual's lifetime and impact future generations of their family, and whereas childhood trauma, including abuse and neglect, is a serious problem affecting every community, and finding solutions requires input and actions from everyone, and whereas children who live in families with access to concrete economic and social supports are less likely to experience abuse and neglect, and whereas nurture positive childhoods and preventing child maltreatment is possible because of the partnerships created between families, prevention advocates, child welfare professionals, education, health, community, and faith-based organizations, business, law enforcement agencies, and local, state, and national governments. And whereas we acknowledge that in order to solve the public health issue of abuse and neglect, we must work together to change hearts and mindsets through storytelling and sharing, center the needs of families, break down bias and barriers, and inspire action from expected and unexpected partners. And now, therefore, we hereby proclaim April as Child Abuse Prevention Month in Scotland County, North Carolina, and urge all citizens to recognize this month by building a narrative of hope for children and families through collaboration and the creation of an ecosystem of primary prevention. Whereas we are committed to advocating equitable, responsive, and effective systems that ensure all children and families are healthy and thriving. And whereas we recognize the need to prioritize kids and invest in more prevention initiatives like home visiting and family strengthening policies, economic supports, and community-based child abuse prevention programs at the national, state, and local levels. And now therefore be it proclaimed by the Scotland County Board of Commissioners that April 2025 be proclaimed as Child Abuse Prevention Month in Scotland County, North Carolina, and commend its observance to all citizens. Proclaimed the 7th day of April 2025.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody got anything on that? Let's go ahead and take a motion on that proclamation, and we'll do them one at a time.
Second.
Commissioner Williams, Commissioner O'Neill, second. Any other discussion?
Just a question real quick. You said there were 77 substantiated cases.
Yes, sir.
What would you say are the two most common forms of abuse that we see in our community?
I would think more physical abuse, but a lot of our in need of services cases, I have seen a significant increase in substance abuse. And children having to suffer the effects of their parents' substance abuse and their unwillingness to either seek treatment or the lack of resources for them to seek that treatment.
So as we see, the community at large, it makes me wonder how much we're doing in the anger management space.
Oh, most definitely. We have some parents that we do connect with anger management services just because childhood trauma or just things they've experienced as children coming up as well.
Yeah, is that commonly required for people to attend some form? To me, the emotional management part of just dealing with the stressors of life and all the other stuff, the childhood and all that. I mean, you see people respond violently with great deal of anger or emotion to pretty innocuous situations, and we see it in life frequently, so.
Right, and me personally, I feel like that's why there has been such an increase in domestic violence cases, because you have families who are financially struggling, mental health, things going on with mental health, just a whole big complex area of things that need to be fixed in order for these families to be able to thrive and be successful.
Just to piggyback that for a second, Ms. Jacob, is there an uptick in foster homes, moving kids from homes because of the neglect and abuse?
I would say more of placing them in temporary safety providers where parents have the option of naming a placement for their children to go stay with, and then getting those background checks completed. So trying to keep the children in a home setting as opposed to being placed with strangers. That's our goal. That's our first goal. Foster care is our very last effort. So we always just do everything we can to make sure that we are getting them in a family setting so they're around people that they know.
Okay. Anything else?
Thank you.
All right, we have a
Thank you.
motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, ma'am. Now we'll hear from Kim.
Yes, thank you
And,
very much. Good evening. I'm Kimberly McCrae with Scotland County DSS and the Reentry Program. North Carolina has 23 local reentry councils that serve justice-involved individuals within 38 counties, with Scotland County being one of those counties. The LRCs work to reduce recidivism and/or a relapse into criminal behavior. Typical services include assistance with housing, employment, transportation, substance abuse, obtaining personal documentation, and other basic needs. During the year of 2024, the Scotland County Local Reentry Council served 87 participants, with 53 of the participants exiting the program successfully. Reentry services are a vital part of coordinating resources in the community for former incarcerated citizens that will successfully transition them back into their home community, all while reducing recidivism and crime, improving community health, and bettering overall safety. Therefore, we ask you, the Scotland County Board of Commissioners, to proclaim April as Second Chance Month. And I will now do the reading of the proclamation. The proclamation for 2025 in recognition of April as Second Chance Month. Whereas approximately 95% of all people in prison will eventually complete their sentence, be released from incarceration, and return to their communities. And whereas formerly incarcerated individuals are faced with many obstacles in locating employment, housing, transportation, and health care. And whereas justice-involved youth may encounter similar challenges when leaving a secure custody facility, as well as difficulties reuniting with family and peer, reintegrating into their home community, and enrolling in the local educational system. And whereas local leaders and state and federal officials recognize these challenges and continue to develop policies and programs to make it easier for the former incarcerated adults and justice-involved youth to lead successful lives. Whereas in January of 2024, Executive Order 303 was issued, directing a transformational whole of government approach to improve reentry, rehabilitation, and prison education services in North Carolina. And whereas North Carolina's State Reentry Council collaboration is implementing efforts to the former incarcerated and their transition by coordinating reentry planning initiatives and identifying service gaps, and whereas investing in juvenile crime prevention councils as well as education, vocational programming, and therapeutic treatment services for justice-involved youth creates fewer victims and safer communities while saving a societal and justice system cost. And whereas providing resources for formerly incarcerated adults and justice-involved youth is a collective effort among local reentry councils, juvenile crime prevention councils, community and faith-based organizations, and the state. And whereas the cumulative efforts of reentry professionals, advocates, and volunteers help to reduce stigmas and provide the formerly incarcerated and justice-involved youth with increased opportunities and a great chance of a successful reentry into the communities. And now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Scotland County Board of Commissioners that April 2025 be proclaimed as Second Chance Month in Scotland County, North Carolina, and commend its observance to all its citizens. Proclaim this day the 7th day of April 2025.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. All right, anybody got any questions or comments?
So Stephanie, we have an event coming up for reentry this month. Kimberly, I'm sorry.
Yes.
You did the same thing. I had it
I'm
all.
looking at the
Okay.
slide instead of thinking about the name.
Yes, and it is posted on the county's website, but we did bring a copy of it and I can distribute it. But we will have Second Chance Day and a toiletry drive on April the 16th, 2025, from 9 o'clock a.m. to 2 o'clock p.m. at 231 East Cronley Street here in Laurinburg. And the Scotland County Reentry Program, it assures individuals, assists individuals with the following services: employment, temporary housing, mental health, education, substance abuse, and more. And if you have questions, we have posted the numbers here, and feel free to call, and we can provide you all with additional information. So I will give this to the clerk, and it can be distributed.
Where at on Cronley Street, you said?
It's on Crawley Street at the, what do they call that
Board of
building?
Elections.
The Board of Elections building, right
Probation.
behind there.
Oh,
We'll be
okay.
out there
Okay,
all
okay,
day
okay.
from 9 o'clock until two
I was just
o'clock
trying to
PM.
give somebody their reference to where it was.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. So
All right,
please,
Kimberly, I
if
was
you're
trying to give
available,
you a
come
plug.
out and join us. We'd be happy to see you all.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, without any other discussion, I'll take a motion on the proclamation.
So move.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
And they will have those signed proclamations.
Tim, you gonna take a picture? Gonna take a picture?
You want to take a picture? Do you want to do a picture? Yeah, we can do a picture. See that? How about that? Didn't even notice. Okay. Next item is a public hearing on a project treatment, and I believe you all got in your package what the proposed incentive package was from the county and from the city. So at this time, and just to answer a question before it's asked, is why aren't we naming the company? We can't yet because the governor hasn't announced, which should be coming. Is it tomorrow? Okay. So I assume he's not coming then to announce that, but okay. So, but the announcement will be tomorrow, so then you'll know who the company is. But as of now, there's nothing. So with that, you want to go over the incentive first, and then we'll do the public hearing?
I can. So the incentive agreement, much like we have approved in the past for companies of this size, they are required to bring 35 jobs to the county and maintain 35 jobs to county. They also have to maintain those jobs at a salary level that the state approves, and they also get for 4 years 75%, I guess you'd say, credit or reimbursement based on the ad valorem taxes they pay.
Okay. And that's 35 jobs, right? And I think 4 million investment. So with that, at this time, we'll open the public hearing on anyone that would like to speak. Well, I'll just open it if you want to speak for or against it. Seeing no one, we will close the public hearing, and move on to any discussion that we may have as the board.
I'll tell you, I'm personally, as a member of the Economic Development Board. I'm just so happy to see these jobs coming and this investment, and I think it's an opportunity for other companies to follow in who do work that's similar or complementary to this employer. So I just think it's amazing news and look forward to the official announcement.
This is an existing business, I don't even know if I should say, from out of state, but they're expanding here. It's not, they're not closing or moving, they are expanding and are looking for some more expansion operation, availability here. For now, the agreement we have now, the building they'll be moving into is the new building built behind FCC out off, if you know where that is, on 401. So I hadn't heard that the announcement was gonna be tomorrow, but I knew it was coming, so.
Mr. Chairman, would that business that's moving in, is there a chance that business is gonna grow here in Scotland County?
Oh, yeah, they're already talking about expanding that.
Okay.
Will it be,
As you know, that building was built on, is 50,000 square foot, and it's already got a pad for expanding it 50,000 square foot. So.
just to add what Ed was saying, will this industry piggyback other industry to come here?
Oh, yeah, it could, yeah, yes. And once they make that announcement, you'll know why.
I know.
We're good.
So it could be a big
That's a
issue.
positive step forward.
And one of the reasons for the is our location to where we are.
I knew the answer, but I wanted him to.
Okay, I know. I didn't. I'm sitting here explaining to Duke. He's on the board. He already knows what.
I want him to hear.
I got you. Yes, and hopefully tomorrow more can come out about that. So we just can't get ahead of the governor's announcement on the business name, but we can go ahead and do our incentive improvement, and that's why we want to do that tonight, because they're ready to hit the ground rolling, and we needed to get that done. So
Mr. Chairman, that's a good point. I think they're gonna start manufacturing very quickly. So,
they've got some changes to make on the floor in the building, but and some electrical stuff to add. But yeah,
They did have a timeline they wanted.
yeah, I think they're gonna start this summer, literally.
they're ready to move pretty quick.
So this will mean jobs and pretty quickly.
Yep. Okay. Anything else? We need a motion to approve the incentive package for project treatment.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Commissioner McFadden. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Thank you. Our next one is County Manager April Sneed on our 26 budget capital request, which there should be one in your packet. It's the same one that we got at our
Right.
budget meeting the other day, so.
It's the same one, and of course, me and Ms. Hobbs are in the middle of trying to work out the budget for next year, and so we'd like to start making a little forward progress on what types of capital projects you would like us to try to build into the budget. And so Ms. Hobbs and I and from Public Buildings, Mr. McGirt, sat down and first looked at the overall large capital plan, the one that has out like 40 years on there. And so, or I'm sorry, through 2040, not 40 years. And so these are the ones, of course, leaning heavily on Mr. McGirt. We recommend at the top that says recommendations from Master Capital Plan. We recommend us trying to get into the budget for next year. All the others that were on the actual plan, we do think we can move to next year or beyond and still be okay. And so you all can take a look at that first list there. Courthouse waterproofing. Of course, the maintenance shop would be not building, but moving our maintenance shop to property that we are soon to acquire, and also sharing that property with the East Laurinburg Recycling Center. Next is East Laurinburg Recycling Center. And of course, the maintenance shop and the recycling centers, those are estimates. I can't say, and we estimated high because of course we want to do that. But when we get out there, of course, we'll know more. And when we can actually start work, we'll know more as to what that looks like. landfill scale house. This is one that I've got $100,000 there, and you may want to give some guidance on that, on what your pleasure is for that. We have a scale house at the landfill. Of course, it's very old. I understand when it was placed there, it wasn't anything new. It was almost like I don't really know, but in my mind, I think of it as like a storage box was placed there and an office built into it somehow. And so it is in pretty bad shape. We have a quote from one contractor who will basically almost take it and gut it and redo everything on it, top to bottom, for under $100,000, just under. However, when you do something like that on an existing property, you don't know what you're gonna run into, right? And so we don't know when they get in there to start working if we would then incur costs that go well beyond the original quote. So what I'm describing is, would we rather get quotes on bringing something new in? Maybe not stick built, but maybe we bring something in,
A modular.
Yes,
something to that
You
degree.
could get those modular job trailers is what they're setting up now.
right.
For scale
Right.
houses that are very cheap.
Whole lot.
So, and so if that's the board's direction, we'll continue to look at that project and, get quotes to see if they're comparable to what we already have to totally almost rebuild what we have.
Well, that's coming out of the enterprise fund,
It
right?
is, that's, of course, landfill is a different fund, it's enterprise fund, and,
Okay.
so it doesn't mix with your general fund. And then the sheriff's office evidence building, the roof needs to be replaced. However, they've gotten quotes that we could almost put a new building there for the same price as what we're getting quoted for a roof. But we do think that's something we need to try to get moving on in the upcoming budget.
Is that a tin roof?
So these are our initial recommendations from the master capital plan. Then-
Just a quick question on the waterproofing. Mike, how long is that gonna extend that roof?
We're waterproofing it for the walls, and it's on for the north side of the courthouse. We've got some more fixtures in the old vault area there, but we're trying to contain.
Okay, so that's not the roof, that's a wall.
Yes, sir, the wall.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And then I looked at the departmental request, and I put the word required, because there's two on there that our 911 communications center really has to have done. We get 50% reimbursement on each of those from our 911 funds, and so I just put those there because we know we're building those into the budget as we go along. We have additional departmental requests. You also have that, the same thing we looked at your budget meeting, a few weeks ago. Those add up to an additional $3.3 million. And so those are the ones that we would like you to start drilling down and thinking through, which we would like to try to fund and which we may need to put off to another year. And so, I don't know if that is something you want to discuss tonight, or if you want to take it to your April 30th meeting.
Yes.
April 30th.
Yeah, let's
I think
digest.
I
April
think
30th.
Let's digest.
So when we come to our April 30th meeting, I think we need to be ready to start making some pretty definitive decisions on those and
Right.
on the personnel requests.
I will say this, and because I know the courthouse is listed on there, after a little meeting with Senator Britt, I don't think the state's gonna be in a position to give us any money this year.
To build a new courthouse
Yeah, they're not.
about next year. That's right.
It ain't looking good.
This year it don't look good. And a lot of that has to do with, the way the tax rate was set up, but a lot of it's got to do with Western North Carolina. A lot of that
Right,
money's,
right.
a lot of that money's going out west, so.
I got you.
I get that, so.
What do you say, $40 million in the negative?
No, it was almost $1 billion
Oh,
in the
40.
negative.
Yeah.
But, they've got the fund to make that up, but,
Right.
and of
I
course,
thought
that,
it said it was 40 million in the budget, that's negative.
it might, I don't remember. But I know they're not hurting for money, but they're also not in a place to be handing it out this year, so. Anyway, I'm sorry. We'll move on to the next, the animal control data from sneeze.
So at your last budget meeting, I can't remember exactly, forgive me for that, but you asked me to bring back animal control information. Wow. And so Ms.
raining?
Deaver, I believe that is right.
Raining.
Yeah.
Better talk closer to the microphone. And so Ms. Deaver asked me Ms. Deaver sent me this information about animal control data. As you can see, it lists out as far as we have gone through this fiscal year. I won't read this to you clearly. Calls, I will clarify, calls are all calls received to the agency. That does not mean that all calls are responded to, because it may not be something that legally they can respond to. But they do track the number of incoming calls. And then, of course, when they come in, they start to file down into the categories you see below as how those two animal control officers respond and the things that they are responding to.
Can you explain the violations? Do those result in some sort of fine, or
Should be citations.
do we just say you're in violation of something?
In other words, is there a ticket written?
I am not familiar, but I do not believe that there is any kind of civil penalty written or anything that brings in revenue.
Well, I'm just looking at the number of violations up there, and it seems like there's a lot of violations, but
Well, are there any?
it doesn't
What
have
is
any.
the repercussion for?
Does it have any teeth? Does it have a bite? Oh, sorry, that's a joke here for animal control, but there seems to be, I'd be curious, if you're citing people, what's happening, and normally you cite people to kind of discourage that behavior in the future, and
And to discourage other people from it happening too.
Well, and we
or
can
doing it.
certainly get with our animal control experts to give us that process and what happens if you violate somebody once, twice, 3 times. What is the real repercussion to that person, or how are they held accountable?
yeah, and I'm wondering too, that if you look at the number of the difference between the violations and the number impounded, that's a pretty interesting gap. It could just be multiple animals, I don't
It
know.
could be stray animals too included in that impoundment.
Right.
Yeah,
If they find a stray dog. I know what you're saying. You're trying to look at the violations, see do they somewhat go with the impoundment, but some of that could be stray dogs on it. I guess your concern is right. If we got violations, what is the punitive damage? You got a dangerous dog out there that attacks somebody and kill them.
Right.
How are we?
Or just bites.
Well, so there's absolutely no tickets or anything been,
Not right now, and I think that's something I would have to refer to Mr. Johnston and research. Is that something you can have an ordinance on to change? Is it within your authority to issue like a civil penalty for those violations?
I think you can. I think
Because-
it need to be a penalty, not a fine.
Right. I think
Right.
we're living in a time where
A lot like solid waste.
I was reading something where a guy was attacked by 4 dogs, his brother's dogs. He went to feed them. Brother was on vacation, and 2 of the dogs were prohibited dogs in this country.
Wow.
So there needs to be some type of.
So is that something you all are interested in?
well, I think we're investing a lot of resources to animal control officers, vehicles, and people are out there doing work that probably can be dangerous sometimes, and I think people need to know we're serious about these kind of things, and there probably are situations where people should be cited and some penalty of some form applied. And I'll tell you, when I'm just out driving around the county, it's amazing how many emaciated dogs you see on the side of the road in the middle of nowhere, no collar, no nothing, and
Well, I'm not getting out because I don't do
yeah.
the one I keep riding.
And I'll tell you, it's a problem that you hear about a lot, and to me, it's tantamount to the litter problem, except they're doing it with animals instead of throwing their trash away. So
that is a big problem.
I think it's something that we ought to get somebody in here who can talk intelligently about it, and let's come up with a strategy that moves the needle a little bit Because I think just citing people with no effect,
We might need
But
to
I don't
look
even know
out,
if we're doing that. I
we
mean,
might need to look how other counties are doing it,
yeah.
maybe model after that. Because I'm sure they having the same problem we're having, or had.
So we can reach out, like I was saying, we can research what we're allowed to do. If other counties already have ordinances for it, it'll be easy enough to get those and see what your next steps could be.
Yeah, it might be good to hear from the Humane Society side of this as well, in terms of managing all these animals and.
Something somewhere, but we probably need to have a policy. Update it.
okay.
Okay.
So they're gonna research that, and then we'll have the policy committee get together to kind of draft that up to wait.
Do we know what the city's doing? Do they write tickets?
I know they write them, but I don't know.
For animal
I don't know
control?
if they,
There's the former chief, he can tell you.
We would cite you, you know, we brought in the animal control guy. We equipped him with a truck. If you had a dangerous dog or he needed to remove your dog, it's been time when he charged him and took him to court.
And obviously, I think we ought to have a system of warnings and stuff like that where it's appropriate, but there has to be something that sends the message, you know, that this isn't the right thing to do, and we care about it.
And they may be doing it. We just
Yeah.
be charged.
There may just be no teeth to what they can, you know, there may not be nothing behind
That
what they
another
can
joke?
do.
No teeth?
No.
It didn't, mine didn't go over well, so yeah.
They both crashed. I wasn't trying, but it did. I will. The only thing I'll say on animal control conversations I've had with people is to understand that our animal control is dogs and cats. It's not bobcats. It's not coyotes. It's not. I saw a bear in the woods. That they're not equipped or trained for that. So that's North Carolina Wildlife would be who we'd have to contact on that. But okay.
So should we, is it Health Department Director gonna talk to us about this, or in the future, or animal control, or how do we wanna do that?
Well, we'll get them to research what we can to find out what can be done, and then we'll get together and then probably have her at the policy committee meeting to
Okay.
draft that up. Okay. All right, nothing else. We'll move on to board appointments. Commissioner Frizell.
Board appointments, all righty. I'm gonna make this in a motion. So we got the Equalization and Review Board, reappointment of Natasha Kachaturoff.
That's cool. Very good.
I think I said
Miss
that
K.
right.
You
Miss
close.
K.
Yeah, Miss K, okay.
All right.
And Joe Bowen. Trillion Regional Advisory Board is Dorian Williams. Wagram Scotland County Zoning Board is David Clark and Phyllis Lowry. The Jury Commission is Ida McGill. And JCPC Youth Member is Ava Bullock. And I'll make that in a motion if I get a second.
All right, we have a second.
Second?
All right, the only discussion, why is it called the Wagram Scotland County zoning? Is there a different zoning
I
board
think
for
that's
Wagram?
for extraterritorial
For Wagram.
outside of Wagram.
Okay. All right, good enough. But do we have someone on the Longburg ETJ?
I think you're going somebody.
Okay.
And Ed, what does the Jury Commission do?
They are really in charge of supervising proper procedures for a jury to be chosen and paneled and that sort of thing. Ms. McGill has been on that
Forever.
for a long, long time.
Forever.
Okay.
Served well. I think I believe it's a three-person board, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
And
I
this
just,
board- this
not
board forms
familiar
one of the
with that
members.
one.
I think we all got a letter from
Yeah,
them not
well,
too long ago.
It's probably a good thing.
All right, so we have a motion for those, and it's properly second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, county manager report.
here, before I get into my report, here's your vacancies right now. Of course, some we've appointed tonight, and then there's those that are left. And so part of to your question, Mr. Ivy, is about Maxton, Wagram, they all have their own zoning boards when they need to meet, so. Okay.
I would like to say, we have a potential Board of Health, new member, coming on, so hopefully that'll happen soon and will replace, our optometrist position.
Okay, moving on to my report, not too lengthy tonight, if it'll come up. North Turnpike water line, continuing to get permits. Last month it came up that, someone thought there was broadband being run out there, and that was correct, it was. Matter of fact, it started to get in the way of our project. And so our engineers are having, to look at options to work around that. And so, actually the fiber optic was installing conduits where we thought we were to some degree. And so anyway, the engineers are working around that with DOT on a solution. And also a solution about Jane Shaw Road and whether we're gonna have to bore down into that or go all the way under that, because that presents two totally different things and two totally different costs when you get into that.
Why is it different there? Is that because that's where that line ends?
I think that's one of the areas where we'd either gonna have to go under it.
Yeah, but I mean,
Or-
isn't that where and I'm trying to remember Jane Shaw, isn't that where that line ends?
Well, it
comes
just,
from the airport.
No, James Shaw is where it comes from Wagram and meets into, where it meets into, a turnpike. So the water comes up Lassiter. Comes up Lassiter and then into James Shaw, then into Turnpike.
I'm just trying to think of Jane Shaw Road, but that's it dead ends into Turnpike.
Right.
And there's a hydrant on that.
That's right. So they're gonna have to go up under the.
Under
road.
there, I got
Yeah.
you. Okay.
update, I'll give an update that wasn't on here about the John Blue House. Of course, the John Blue House is still under renovation or restoration. Mr. Medlin's contract, I wouldn't say ran out, but we put 10 months on that. And so he's gone over his 10 months now. The 10 months ran out in January. That's a little bit of a moving target too. However, he has run into some issues out there that were unexpected and were not even in the scope of work. He just went ahead and fixed them for us. Some that could have been pretty serious. There were some wiring issues, some things that could have been potentially dangerous to the house. So he worked on those things, corrected those for us. Almost forgot I had pictures for you. So here's some pictures. It shows you some of the extensive damage that was on the house. Some of the things he's, of course, replaced, and then somewhat of a more current picture back from March. So you can tell all the top is being done. Now really he's in the stages of replacing all those spindles and painting the house, scraping all the old paint off and painting the house.
Do we
So
have a new estimated completion date?
no, I don't have an estimated completion date. He sends me regular updates. I'm sorry, I didn't say that. I said that wrong. The last time he updated me, he was thinking about May.
Okay.
Tim, when that house gets done, are they gonna open that back up to tourism, people to go in? Oh, okay.
So that's an update that wasn't on there. Another update is our land sale. I did mention that earlier, land sale, land purchase. I mentioned that earlier when I was talking about the maintenance shop in East Laurinburg, and that purchase is due to be settled, I believe, this week.
It is.
Okay, IT assessment, I believe that I reported that I invited the National Guard cybersecurity team back into the county since we had our cyber incident in December of 2023. So now that our new network is set up and standing up, it's natural to invite them back in to look at our new our new network. And so it's interesting that one of the team members that was not here in December of 23, but was even here before that, remembered Scotland County and remember coming here. Also remembered December of 23 and now was back. And so that was pretty good to have that person here because he saw it before, he saw it during, and now he sees it now. Of course, we don't have an official report. That's 30 days out, but they did say we have made much progress, and it looked much, much better, and we were much, much more secure. So we will get that official report in about 20 days. We have hired or filled our grant administrator position. That person will begin on May 1st, 2025. That person that was chosen is Miss Joy Hine. She's in the room. If you know Miss Joy, she's here. Joy comes to us from DSS, where she was over all of child support, over SCATs and other programs along the way. Of course, SCATs comes with grant work, comes with grant reporting, comes with grant writing. And so Joy also has a considerable background in some finance. And so we're glad to have her.
So she's gonna keep doing all that plus the new grant.
Yeah,
I
so
don't know that I don't know that she signed up for that.
Yeah, are we gonna replace?
Just thought I'd throw it out there.
So now we got to look for someone.
Yes, and I believe that may have been posted today, her position, or I know Miss English was telling me they're getting ready to get that posted. And so one good thing about hiring internally is Joy is available to go back. And whoever Miss Kim hires in that position, Joy will be available for questions, to go over, to show them things. And that is one good thing about when people decide to move within the organization. Of course, that goes without saying, but we'll absolutely will not leave DSS in the lurch. And Joy is absolutely welcome to go back over there. Just other announcements, we're doing annual IT training that will probably roll out through our NeoGov system in the next week or so, where all county staff are required to go through self-led IT training. Heart Safety Workplace, EMS, will begin to work with all county departments and all employees to provide hands-only CPR training. And so this will allow us to become a heart safety workplace as designated by Duke University. Of course, when you're talking about every county employee, that is going to take months and months and months, but we're very excited. One, that we have an EMS director that doesn't want to just sit stagnant. He wants to go above and beyond and make sure we're all trained in how to do hands-only CPR, and every staff member we have is. You also see in my what's going on in Scotland County type of update, he's also doing that at the fun run for the community.
You brought up EMS just briefly while Robert's here. I've been watching, some of the other counties. Are you having a hard time finding folks or filling positions? It seems like I'm seeing it everywhere.
We do.
So what are you doing? What are you doing to combat it? You got folks working over, or are you trying to crisscross? You have no choice, but
We're getting creative. We're thinking outside the box. We're
Okay.
getting creative.
all right. I thought.
Yeah, okay. And our last thing I have is our Veterans Office has applied for a grant for $20,000 that will help pay for salary, training costs, and we are our Purple Heart status signage and a new case management system that we feel would be very, very helpful to our veteran service officer. Then finally, I have upcoming events in Scotland County. I don't think people realize, and these are only events that our county departments are hosting or a major party. And so I don't think people have any idea how much is going on in Scotland County and how much our departments are doing in Scotland County. Again, that isn't just their job. It's one step beyond their job to get out and promote what's going on. So we'll get that on our county website as well, or on our Facebook page, and so people can take a look at that.
So, April, when you mentioned the IT assessment, we outsourced IT 18 months ago? A year ago?
They officially started 1 month, no. Well, it depends on what area they're starting in. They had been with our county through our 911 Communications Center had already outsourced IT to them. And then just before December of 23, they officially pulled in the rest of the county.
So have you been satisfied with the outsourced performance?
No, it was rough going there at first, but we had to remember that we were rebuilding an entire network with a new vendor. And so they had to learn us, we had to learn them. And so naturally, I think people weren't always getting the service they thought they should expect because we were rebuilding a new network, and sometimes what people thought was their emergency might not be the major thing to do that day. Our network's been, I would say, rebuilt for what, maybe 3 months now solidly, and I think I can definitely see the difference in response. VC3 has put somebody on site in Scotland County. She has an office in the county manager's building, and she is, I'll be honest, I haven't heard anybody say anything negative about who they have put on site. And she really handles all of our tickets, unless there are things that VC3 can remote in and do to save her time for hands-on projects.
I just think as we outsource things, a lot of times it's good to kind of ask ourselves, are we satisfied with what we're getting? Is it working for us? Or does it continue to work for us? And if so,
Absolutely.
great. But if not,
Well, and that's also part of, not for customer service so much, but that's also why I invited the National Guard back in. I need to make sure that this company that we outsource to set this network up right. That the experts say, yep, you know what you're doing about all you can do as a county on the county level to be cyber secure.
They're actually the ones that caught it. I want to say it was the first day or second day that they had put their software on our servers is the day that hack was caught. And so it was a big uphill climb for a long time.
It was.
You know, but
well, good.
Everybody back there knows. It was a long, however many months that was, almost a year.
okay.
That was my report.
Commissioner News, Commissioner O'Neill, we'll start.
Two things. One is vacant and abandoned properties. I know we've talked about this before, but what's our next step to start addressing that, around properties that don't appear to have a clear owner, we're not collecting taxes on, or properties that are abandoned, for the lack of a better word.
Or burned.
Yeah, or whatever it might be, but just to take that process, because I think Commissioner Frizzell's brought it up, and we probably need to see what our next steps are.
We've talked about that already a little bit. One is kind of twofold. One thing our tax office is doing is getting a very good comprehensive list of properties that, as you say, people are not paying taxes on, so we can make sure we have either gone through the foreclosure process or decided why we have not. Because we are seeing an influx of people who want to buy these properties. And so first step is knowing everything you got out there. Second step is, hey, do we advertise that these are out there? People can bid on them. I think we've had 4 or 5 so far that have successfully been sold. And we never sell a property for less than what we have invested on it and for the taxes owed on it.
So when do you think we'll have a good picture of this group?
So if we weren't going through reevaluation, I would say a lot faster than because we are going through reevaluation. And so that is really taking all of our tax staff's time for what they normally do and placing another level of work on it. So, but I know our tax administrator's working on it. So,
Okay.
The second part of that with abandoned properties, whenever we, it's probably been a year ago, whenever we had a group come together and we revised and you passed the new solid waste ordinances, that was a start of a conversation that group had for abandoned properties, especially properties that are abandoned that belong to Scotland County. We should work in conjunction with our solid waste and our landfill to do something about that because they're ours. That's legally, of course, that's much easier than we start to talk about when somebody owns the property, potentially paying taxes on the property, and they choose for it to be abandoned in a worse shape. So
I think that's not. I don't think that's quite what he's talking about.
Oh, okay.
So what I have found, and I've been looking at this for a couple years actually, and trying to figure out how to address this. Like I know where property is that Well, let me start at the start. So we have an attorney firm that sells our property for us. What they do, they'll put it in the foreclosure for those that don't know, and then they'll sell the property. They'll sell it on the courthouse steps. Well, the problem is you got property out there, and I think me and Mr. Johnson's talked about it a few times, but you have property out there that, you know, this family owned it, but now you got 35, 40 heirs to this one piece of property. So what you have to do is you have to send letters to all these people that you can't find. So what happens is this property just sits there, it's vacant. And I know we're, you know, 10 or 12 pieces right now just that I know about. And it just sits there vacant. So I had called the attorney firm up and talked to attorney firm. And they said, well, you know what? It costs more to figure out who owns it than the property is worth. Well, I don't know about y'all, but that's unacceptable to me. I mean, we got county property in this county that ain't being taxes is not being paid on. And that is the end of the story. Is it's going to take too much to find out who owns it.
Well, and,
We'll say, wait a minute, though.
and that's where this list,
I know,
will
but
start
that
to come
ain't
into play.
just that. But then now we got property also. We got property also that we had churches, and the churches is no longer churches anymore. They've abandoned, and they got property that nobody's paying taxes on. So it don't even come up for sale. Then we also have property that when you pull it up on the tax at the tax office, it says unknown owner. Unknown. So we got that property. So I think, you know, if the current firm that we have can't figure out what to do about this, we need to find somebody that,
I don't think that's the firm.
you know.
I think we need to look at what our processes are in the tax office and determine what you said about it will cost a lot more to put it up for auction, track down all the relatives. That is true, than what you would get out of the property. However, if this board wants to decide that is what we will do, then that's what we'll do. But I do believe the tax office has made those decisions in the past because, again, the county would lose money to do
Well,
that.
we would lose
Well,
money.
we lose money up front, but we don't.
That's
in the
right.
end.
We'd lose money up front, but we
Right.
eventually
It
get the
gets
money
back
back
on the
and it
tax
gets
rate.
back on the tax.
Correct. And so,
You know, there has to be a best practice around this, though.
Yeah.
There's probably abandoned properties all over North Carolina, and somebody has cracked this nut or came closer than we have. I just think this is something that there's a missed opportunity here,
right.
potentially, but I understand about timing with the reevaluation and all that,
Well,
but
and that's not to say we can't start. Like I said, people are very interested in these properties, and so there's money to be made and then taxes to be collected behind
Got you.
that.
But there's more than one way to skin a cat. If you got, I'm assuming you got property that you can't find the owner of that property. We should be able to attach some type of lien or attach something to it just in case someone come up and say they want to sell it or
A public notice, some
Right.
sort of-
some kind of way of giving folks, you know, clear understanding.
Taxes are already a lien.
Taxes are owed on this property.
Taxes are a lien.
It's not fair to those who pay their taxes the right way.
okay.
Well, I'm just concerned that we have so much property in the county that we aren't collecting taxes on.
So I propose we start with figuring that out. Again, having a comprehensive list of what is out there. And now we're talking about two lists. When we're talking about one, properties that have already been through the foreclosure process and are sitting there, and we need to let people know, hey, these could be for sale. And when I say that, I mean they were auctioned off, but nobody bought them, so now they're sitting and they're ready for sale. And then two is another set of properties, like you're saying, that they would be very, very hard and expensive to get to that point. But it's not to say that we can't.
Well, my only example for that is, I don't want to pick on anybody, but because I don't know who owns it, but that store on 401 North, where you turn that burned.
The old breeding store.
Yeah,
By
yeah.
Cascades.
And that is something needs to happen with that. I mean, it's just an eyesore. And it's obvious that, well, they can't rebuild it, so, but
And
then,
also
but then
very
you get,
dangerous.
but then you get into that, do we assume the property? Because then you assume everything with that property, if there's underground tanks, that kind of thing. So you got to be careful when you do that stuff to make sure you know what you're getting into.
Yeah, like I said, there should be best practice around this
Mm-hmm.
somewhere. And I think this will go to improving the optics of the county and stuff like that if we can address this with the owners in an effective way or through the sale of the property or whatever it may take.
Okay.
The second thing is the subdivision ordinance. I know that's something we've been talking about. So,
When is our zoning board next, do you know?
It would be the third Wednesday of, assuming they have business,
Be next
May.
Did we not send that to the zoning board already?
That's, but I don't think they've met, so. I don't think they've met yet.
and then the final,
Can we talk about, or what is it that you want the zoning board to do with the subdivision ordinances?
yeah, so I think one of the things we've talked about is the current subdivision ordinance is, sets the bar pretty high for building a subdivision and, in terms of requirements, but you have subdivisions like Deercroft, which are outside of that ordinance, where 40 new houses are being built, and I think there's a reason for that from the developer's point of view and from the buyer's point of view. So I wonder why our subdivision ordinance can't be more like what's made Deercroft possible.
So you all want them reviewed,
Absolutely,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And one of the reasons.
especially for building out in the county.
well, and I guess for
mean, in the
things
city, I
that-
kind of get the difference, but
I assume you're looking for things that are in there that may not be required by permit, but have been added in there at some point.
well, I think a lot of times people talk about curbing and sidewalks and particular drain systems and stuff like that, where Deercroft, you don't see sidewalks everywhere, you don't, but they've got $600,000 homes in there, so I'm just convinced that perhaps we're pricing ourselves a little bit out of the market by having such a stringent requirement for subdivisions when we have existing subdivisions that are growing under those rules. And I think it's a question worth asking.
So I'm gonna go off what he's saying there is, so that subdivision ordinance was modeled off of Charlotte subdivisions ordinance, I believe it was.
I don't know.
I think it was modeled off the one in Charlotte. Well, you know, we all know this ain't Charlotte. And that's what they got it modeled off of. And the way they have it set up is our property ain't even worth that much after we put that in. So that's why it needs to be softened up a little bit, you know, kind of what Ed's talking about is model it after Deercroft or Scotch Meadows, you know, instead of a subdivision in Charlotte.
Right, right, okay.
The final thing I have is, we were talking about the issue of consolidation of health and human services. So I think we probably have to reach a public comment period about that, and so,
Yes, we are scheduled to publish that in the paper, to be ready for the June 2nd meeting for the public hearing. So that's a 30-day publishing, so that would run approximately May 2nd, to be ready for June 2nd,
I think Ed
June
was gonna-
2nd meeting.
I think Ed was gonna say something.
I was just gonna say the subdivisions you're talking about were built under a different set of rules, and I think you're aware of that, and they were probably reasonable rules that didn't forestall folks from starting subdivisions and building them.
and I'm not sure that we have to abandon the ordinance at all.
Right.
I'm just saying, let's look at it and make sure that it makes sense for our communities and where we're trying to have development occur, because we're not Charlotte, and if people want, you know, there's people who want to live in Pinehurst and want to pay those prices and all that, but there's people who want to find affordable housing right here in our community.
And you're
And I-
running amenities up Turnpike Road, and there could be land up there available
Correct.
for,
And I hope we can make it economically enticing for a developer to come in and say, hey, if I could build a Deercroft 2 under those kind of rules or similar rules and sell those homes, I think we might get the investment we're looking for.
Well, they're right at the county line. They at Legacy, Hope County, up North Turnpike, they're there.
Yeah,
They're right at our county line, those developers.
let's help ourselves, because I've talked to developers who've said, you know, this is a California-style ordinance for North Carolina. And in our rural communities, it's probably just more difficult.
that suggested ordinance really came from the Council of Governments advisor. I'm not sure whether she works there anymore or not, but there was a good bit of discussion and some resistance to it from the Planning and Zoning Board, and some of those folks are still on there. And I think they'd probably welcome a chance to modify it a little.
Yeah, I think there's something between where we are and what's been successful here, and maybe we can find that sweet spot.
Okay.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Commissioner McFadden? Commissioner Edge, anything? Mr. Williams?
I attended the Tide Conference for Trillion this past week. It was a good conference. I saw Cecilia in Lee County.
Okay. Commissioner Fazell?
I'm good.
The only thing I had to bring up was about our hearing in June for the consolidation. Wanted to recognize Commissioner Alford, former Commissioner Alford, who's here. I didn't see him come in, but he snuck in, so, all right, with that, if nothing else to be done, we're gonna recess this meeting until Wednesday, April the 30th at 9 a.m. at the Peden Street office. Budget meeting, yep. With that, we're in recess.
Okay. Have a good one.
You know what I'm talking
Yeah.
April, you really don't need this back, do you? I don't have the conditions. No, that's okay. I didn't have the incentive. It might have been in this one, though.
It was kind of what John Blue, headed up John Blue.
Oh, yeah. April, I'm gonna leave this. If somebody.
That ordinance of,